Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Necron Codex. Today's part 2 of sort of my look at the general army, and with this I'm going to look at stratagems, warlord traits and relics. So this is all before I then start looking at the units specifically. So yeah, we're going to have a look at them in specific, and with that we'll start at stratagems. So stratagems, you know them, you love them. I feel that mid to later codexes did really well when it comes to stratagems. A lot more of the stratagems feel a lot more focused and a lot more planned out and synergised with the codex as a whole. Overall, I'm pretty pleased when it comes to Necron stratagems. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I'm a bloody jerk and I spam the same stratagem over and over again. I'll go into that maybe a little bit later. However, I feel it's important for to know a key amount of stratagems that you want to use throughout your army and plan accordingly. I mean, that works for just about over all codexes, but certainly in your playstyle it is very essential to maybe have, if you're playing with cards, the cards out there to just have the stratagems. That's how I like to play, and I know I've got a deck there, I'm going, right, that's how my playstyle will work. I feel it's a good time to maybe mention a bit of a problem with the codex when it comes to this. The way detachments work, rewarding command points, often reward cheap HQs and cheap troops to get easy command points. We, after all, have seen the famed Loyal 32, cheap guard, HQ and cheap troops feed Imperials command points like nothing on earth. Sadly, Necrons don't have this option as much. Their cheapest HQ spam is to use a Cryptek or a Lord, which is really nice. Both have their place in forces. I didn't realise recently a Lord's Aura ability allows you to reroll wound rolls of 1 within 6 inches of them till recently, which is actually really nice. I play a more fast moving army, so it's kind of like really difficult for the Lord to keep up with them. But I'm tanging on that when I'll speak to a Lord in another video. Anyway, so that's our HQs. Those are our two cheapest ones we can spam. The troops, we also have, you can take 5 Immortals, and they clock up I think about 75 points if you take a 5-man Immortal squad after chapter approved. So 3 times then plus 2 times a cheap Lord or Cryptek will clock in about 355 points to 400 points for 5 command points. Not bad, but not super cheap. The other problem is Reanimation Protocol heavily favours large squads, so that when you survive, you're going to bring more of them back and get the most benefit from it. So for instance, a Necron Warrior, 3 times 20-man squad and 2 cheap HQs, roughly going to clock in at about 800 points for that 5 command points. So you have a very fine line between expensive command point battery that that will do quite well, concerning the army, or taking a cheap one which might not achieve so much or may not survive as much. If they are cheap, make sure you know that you have a force that complements this, and ultimately you're putting your command points right. You have spent a lot of points to get those command points. Honestly, I don't have an answer when it comes to this. Where you're, it depends mainly on your playstyle, what you like to play like. Some love warriors. I know David likes to use warriors and flyers, while I prefer more elite and fast units, which I find are absolutely excellent. And with that, I tend to use them and not get as many command points. I just feel it needed to be covered that, if you are, I prefer not going battalions, so often in games with Necrons, I'm going in with just 4 command points, as opposed to a lot of people who may be going in with 4, and many people who, if they play their armies right, may be going in with a lot more. So yeah, I don't tend to spam having a huge amount of command points, but I certainly know my plan when it comes to stratagems. Speaking of which, let's go into stratagems. First up is Extermination Protocols, 1 command point. Use a stratagem in the shooting phase before shooting with a Destroyer Lord, a unit of destroyers, or a unit of heavy destroyers from your army. Reroll failed hit and wound rolls for that unit until the end of the fight phase. Oh boy, usually I may go in order of stratagems as they are in the codex, however I had to speak about this one first. I mean, it is brutal for 1 command point. Very rarely do I advocate for a stratagem to go up in command points, This one, if any, I feel in the game probably deserves it. You already reroll 1s to hit, which is good, so essentially you're allowing reroll 2s, but rerolling wounds as well is where this pays off hugely. A healthy unit of 4 to 5 destroyers are likely to get 3 to 6 rerolls between hits and wounds, and that is ridiculous for the amount of damage that this unit can achieve. This is certainly a powerful unit and a staple for many forces. Destroyers are almost a must-take to deal with many forces. I will of course go into them in a bit more detail, but a healthy unit will see this stratagem used possibly a lot. Sometimes I spend all my command points just keep on using this stratagem. It is really good, and I feel it should be 2 command points maybe. I mean, like, you could argue you're already rerolling 1s, but still 1 command point just means it happens so regularly if you've got a good amount of destroyers. Yeah, if you've got destroyers and if you're struggling with some stuff at range, that plus extermination protocols is destructive. Other ones, we'll start now maybe going in a bit more, you know, how the codex goes through. Emergency invasion beam, 1 command point. Use the stratagem when the last Dynasty Nightflyer and/or monolith from your army is destroyed. Before removing the model from the battlefield, you can immediately set up a friendly Dynasty unit on their tomb world, wholly within 3 inches of the Night Scythe monolith and more than 1 inch from enemy models. So not so much my playstyle, but certainly David's. He can take up to 3 Night Scythes in an army, zoom up, lining himself up for a devastating turn 2, drop in. However, if you wipe out all his Night Scythes or monoliths, and the unit that is still in the tomb ward doesn't deploy when the Night Scythe or monolith is destroyed, they just are destroyed because they can't make it essentially to the planet. This is a good backup in case your opponent does manage to counter you very effectively. It's interesting whether this works with enhanced invasion beam, which I'll go into later. Part of me says no, as you need to deploy using the invasion beam ability with Night Scythe or the Eternity Gate from the monolith. Emergency invasion beam, I think of it, almost takes up too much power to use the enhanced one as well. So it's like, you know, the enhanced invasion beam as opposed to the regular invasion beam from the Night Scythe and the Eternity Gate from the monolith. I don't think these 2 stratagems can be used together, in emergency and enhanced. But let me know your thoughts on that one. Part of me says no. So I'm very intrigued to hear what your thoughts are on that one, and I'll go into that one later. Well, I don't know if I actually speak about that one because it's not one I actually think is one of the best. But basically that allows you to deploy another one as well. David loves his beaming abilities because he keeps a lot of things in Tomb World. I'm not so much sold on it, but if you are looking for very quick deployment, it is pretty good. One I do play a lot as well is Solar Pulse, 1 command point. Use the stratagem after a Necron unit from your army has declared its target in the shooting phase, but before any hit rolls are made. Pick one of the enemy units that your unit is targeting. The enemy unit does not receive the benefit of cover against your unit's weapons this phase. So cover is certainly not as prevalent as it was, but make no mistake, if your opponent has a deadly unit, such as Hellblasters, tucked away in cover and you really need them dead, then denying them the cover can significantly improve their chances of being destroyed. Teamed up with destroyers and extermination protocols and you can unleash a fair amount of damage. Sorry about that on DJ and our battle report. It was a good game, but that plus Solar Pulse plus extermination protocols, yeah, destroyed your Hellblasters. Anyway, damage control override. Use this stratagem at the start of any turn. Pick a Necron vehicle from your army. Until the end of this phase, use the top row of your vehicle's damage table, regardless of how many wounds is left. This ends immediately if the model is reduced to 0 wounds. A fantastic stratagem included in a few codexes now. Your opponent may write off a vehicle that has been degraded so much and it may no longer be nearly as efficient. This will, for a turn, and for rather cheap, bring it back to full efficiency. As this works for a turn, essentially a Tesseract Vault works super well for this, benefiting from the Catan Powers and Ballistic skill, as far as I can see, so must have if you use one of them. However, other units like Doom Scythe or Doomsday Arc will also benefit from this significantly. As their shots are random, maybe not so much, but it gives them the best possible chance to do damage. Repair subroutines. Use a stratagem at the start of your next turn before making any reanimation protocol rolls. Select a Canoptic unit from your army that is on the battlefield, this unit gains reanimation protocols ability until the end of the turn. So if you do take a large unit of wraiths, this is a must consider. Not 100% reliable to succeed, but when it does, it can be a real pain in your opponent's ass. Like, painful, super painful. Possibly a bit heavy on such a gamble, so improve your chances with things like cryptex, reanimation protocols, reanimation boosts, and those wraiths your opponent, you know, they're glad to eliminated, they'll come back and be an even further pain. I like it, I think it's really good, just that if you're playing, you know, 5-up repairs, it's just a little bit unreliable. So it's a bit tricky, but certainly when it does pull off, it's amazing. And I have once brought back, I think, 5 wraiths. I got all 5-ups and it was crazy. So yeah, can be good. Quantum deflection, 1 command point. Use a stratagem when an enemy unit targets a vehicle in your army that has quantum shielding ability, but before any hit rolls are made. Until the end of the phase, subtract 1 from rolls made for your vehicle's quantum shielding ability to see if the damage is ignored for each unsaved wound. Very situational against things that are damage 4+, this is going to be excellent. Even 3+ is still going to be pretty darn good. Low damage stuff will not save your vehicle, unfortunately. Like, as damage 6 becomes instantly ignored, you know, you can't roll less, you know, so your opponent goes, 6 wounds. Nope, I've ignored it, it's fine, don't worry about it. So yeah, really good one for 1 command point if you do have a really deadly vehicle in the back that has quantum shielding. Speaking of which, does Tesseract Vault have quantum shielding? Nah, it doesn't. So I didn't think so. So yeah, things like your Doomsday Arc, your Ghost Arcs will do well by it, as well as your Doomsday Arc. Yeah, they are going to be the ones that are going to see the biggest benefit from that. The Pharaoh's Will, 1 command point. Use the stratagem after an overlord from your army has used My Will Be Done or wave a command. The model can immediately use that ability for a second time. So depending on the type of force, this may be, super powerful on an alpha strike. Imagine this. Deceiver moves 3 units, if you roll well, Overlord and 2 Mifrit 10-man Immortal squads, or 20-man Necron squads if you so want. Both units get +1 to hit, the Tesla on both units are 5+, and they essentially become -1 AP for the Tesla, or they become -2 AP for the Necron Warriors Gauss, and they're in rapid fire range, will certainly move into it. This will damage a hell of a lot of forces. I like it. If you're infantry heavy, this is really good. I've sort of used this once before, I think against Rob, and I basically deployed behind his lines and got his Devastator squads and wiped them. They were just absolutely destroyed. So this is a really, really good stratagem. If you have planning to take blobs, this is probably really good. Next, we're going to go into Artifacts of Aeons. Here we come to the artifacts, or relics as some people may just call them. Named characters can't have relics as they already have too many shiny stuff. Lastly, if an artifact says it replaces a specific weapon like a War Scythe, you may pay points for the weapon or item it is replacing. In my own playstyle, I tend to be a bit more defensive, the way I field HQ and characters. There is exceptions. When I play Chaos, I play like Demon Prince and Karn, and they're quite aggressive. But the Necron Codex, I'm a little bit more conservative. I do find that some of the Necron Codex relics are a bit underwhelming, but that may be the fact it does not work to my playstyle. I'll talk about the ones that I find probably best and ones you'll find the most use. So we've got the Veil of Darkness. Once per battle, at the end of the moon phase, the bearer can use the Veil of Darkness. When they do, the bearer and up to 1 friendly Dynasty infantry unit within 3 inches of the bearer are removed from the battlefield. Then set up the bearer and the second unit you choose, if any, anywhere in the battlefield that is more than 9 inches from an enemy model. The second unit must be set up wholly within 6 inches of the bearer. So yeah, this is a fair few people sort of go to Artifact. Not bad for a sportive character, or even an aggressive character, if you want to suddenly appear on an enemy vulnerable flank. Move 20 warriors and an overlord into rapid fire range turn 1 because they're not coming in from reserve, they are just redeploying. They already deployed and they're just basically going somewhere else. Along with My Will Be Done will cause some serious havoc. Possibly Lich Guard, because this will move them into dangerous range, you know, possibly get a turn 1 charge. Also works later in the game, you know, so that you've got your unit tied up in combat and you really don't want them to be. Use the Veil of Darkness to escape. Because it's done in the, at the end of the movement phase, it's really easy to get into range, you know, if you're close, you know. As it does not count as falling back, you can still shoot after using the Veil of Darkness, you know, so you don't fall back, you just come out of combat and redeploy, and you can now shoot, which is really good. Generally a safe bet if you don't really have a plan for any of your relics, though you can plan about this one. Generally a solid choice, and usually the one I choose when I am planning out my force. Next up we have the Void Reaper. Replaces War Scythe or Void Scythe. Now the Void Scythe costs more points, when you can just take a War Scythe. So you take a War Scythe, save some points, and you replace it with the Void Reaper. If you're going more aggressively, then yeah, cool, this is pretty decent. If you desire combat, you know, always wounding on a 2+ is really good, unless you're against vehicles or against vehicle units, then you're strength 7, so that's pretty good. -4 AP and 3 damage, pretty solid, and means you're just going to swing and hit really hard. The only reason I'm not big on Necron Lords as combat characters is that they're traditionally very slow. They don't have a big attack pool, and the slow mainly being the hardest part because you can't dictate your engagements. Probably best on a Destroyer Lord because you can get to reroll 1s, though you don't hit 2s, probably because, you know, that would always be really good if your 2s reroll 1s. Yeah, Space Marines are, but you know, you can't always get what you want. But they have extra things over other lords because a Destroyer Lord has an extra toughness and an extra wound, which makes them really good. I think they might have an extra attack as well over regular ones, so 3 attacks. Yep, they've got an extra attack as well. So they're quite good to be a bit more of your aggressive one. They also fly, which means you can dictate your engagements a little bit better. Then there's the Catacomb Command Barge. I think this works really well with one less attack than the Destroyer Lord, but faster with more wounds, and they do hit on a 2+. My Will Be Done is really good as well, but probably the problem is you don't have an invul save with them as you do with a Destroyer Lord, which leaves you very vulnerable. Speaking of Catacomb Command Barge and no invul save, Lightning Field. The bearer of Lightning Field has a 4+ invul save. In addition, roll a d6 for each enemy unit that is within 1 inch of the bearer at the start of the fight phase. On a roll of 4+, that unit suffers mortal wound. So the Catacomb Command Barge badly needs this. Not having an invul save really does, you know, leave it vulnerable to a stray, you know, Smash Captain or Demon Prince, etc., who may hit really hard. This, along with Quantum Shielding, will make it very survivable. Add on Living Metal, and it'll just make a Command Barge really difficult to move. Honourable mention goes out to the Abyssal Staff. Few people like it as a reliable way to get mortal wounds, but the short range of it really puts me off. It means you need to get so close that I'd personally prefer the Veil of Darkness to get out of combat, or the Void Reaper if I'm going to actually fully engage in combat. One to avoid is Gauntlet of Confragulator. Confragulator. Shame because it's synonymous to Necron Codex. I think it's been around for a long time, and it would be nice as a you know, to have some sort of flame or weapon in the Necron Codex, but many people have spoke about it and they just went, I just don't know how to make it work. There's just loads of better options out there. So yeah. That is my thoughts on the relics. I'm a bit underwhelmed when it comes to Necron Codex, but certainly Nightmare Shroud you'll do well with, and if you want to go combat, Void Reaper's pretty cool as well. Let's go into Warlord traits. So Warlord traits are an interesting one when it comes to Necrons. Couple of good options here. None I would say are must-haves every time, but probably very dependent on your individual play style. Depending on, you know, that there's a few ways to obviously complement how you want to work. So we'll begin with Enduring Will. Reduce any damage inflicted on your Warlord by 1 to a minimum 1. For example, if your Warlord failed a saving throw against an attack that inflicts 3 damage, they will only lose 2 wounds. Really solid option, to be honest, if you want to go like a combat orientated and hunt down some powerful targets. That's a pretty good option. Possibly good on a Destroyer Lord, so that they can regain D3 wounds as well, because they gain quite a lot back per turn due to their, I think, their phylactery. I'm not big on Necrons being combat monsters when it comes to their characters, though sometimes I might want to venture for it. If you do plan to go down combat, this is a pretty good option. Immortal Pride. Friendly Dynasty units automatically pass morale tests while they are within 6 inches of your warlord. In addition, your warlord can attempt to deny 1 psychic power in each enemy's psychic phase in the same manner as a psyker. So I really rate this warlord trait. I mentioned in my last video. The denial of psych ability is alright. I mean, 1 chance is not bad. However, the part of this that works is the automatically pass morale test. Morale is the enemy of Horde, and for Necrons, the reanimation protocols, killing 18 Necron warriors out of 20, if not less, really ensures that they're probably going to be destroyed, unless you spend 2 command points to keep them there. Well, not with this warlord trait. Keep them around, keep them around Hordes, and your opponent has to wipe out every single one of them. Even a single warrior left in the squad, or even 10-man squads and Immortals, can really make this warlord trait work out in your favour. Don't use them if you're going to, don't use them on big, say you're going to use very small units, wraiths, etc. Then it's not going to be so good. But if you're going to use big units, 20-man squads of warriors, this is a must-take to sort of mitigate the morale side of it. This has saved me so many times when an opponent's trying to wipe me off and they bring it down to even 2 Necron warriors, and then I've reanimated 9 of them, and it's been an absolute pain. So I really rate this one more than any if you are playing big squads. Implaceable Conqueror, you can reroll, Implaceable Conqueror, you can reroll failed charge rolls for friendly Dynasty units while they're within 6 inches of your warlord. I like this trait a lot. If you have a large amount of charging units and plan to be really aggressive, this can be really good. However, it does require you to be really mobile to keep up, and things like wraiths can really sort of outrun your warlords, and then you're not keeping up and you don't really get the benefit of it. Destroy Lord or Capcom command bars so you can float her out and ensure key units are in range so you get the reroll charges. Probably pretty essential if you are planning to use this one. And finally, I've got 2 more. Hypological Strategist, Sutek Dynasty. Once per battle, you can reroll a single failed hit, wound, or damage roll made for the warlord. In addition, if your army is battle forged and your warlord is on the battlefield, roll a d6 each time you spend a command point to use a stratagem. On a 5+, that command point is immediately refunded. So people love these abilities. Chances to get command points for free have already taken a bit of the nerf back to them with a Tactical Restraint. So you can only recover 1 a turn. Frankly, I'm okay with that. I don't play many forces that have the ability to regain command points. I think Necron's the one I play predominantly that have the chance, and only if they're Sutek. However, there's another problem with this trait. It relies on your command points. It's not farmed from you and your opponents. We've already established it's tough for battalions for Necrons, or at least it's quite point heavy. So, if you're going things like Vanguard or Outrider, you may not have many command points to play with. This means less chances to get command points back. On things like Azmech with cheap HQs and cheap troops, then yeah, this would be amazing. But Necrons ain't cheap, or at least they don't really favour being cheap. Command points can be really hard to come by. If you do have 2 command points, and 8 command points, then you might bring back 2 to 3, which ain't bad at all. But I just feel that with Tactical Restraint and then Necrons with the way that they can get command points, it can be a little bit tricky. I don't rate that one as well, but I think it was important to speak about regenerating command points and how they work in Necron Codex. Very interested to hear what your thoughts on that one are as well. Lastly now is Crimson Haze, which is the Novak Dynasty one. Each time you roll an unmodified hit roll of 6 in the fight phase for a model in the friendly Novak unit that is within 6 inches of the warlord, you can make 1 additional hit roll for that model with the same weapon against the same target. These additional hits cannot themselves generate any further hit rolls. A fantastic trait for those looking at more combat oriented armies, Flayed Ones, Lich Guard, Wraiths, Scarabs. All these combat units, especially those who throw out a lot of dice, are going to like this. but even the elite stuff that hit hard will possibly love an extra attack. Again, you're looking at the Catacomb Command Barge or Destroyer Lord. Mobility is key to keep up and to be able to get in range of your units, and positioning is absolutely essential to get the most out of it. So that's why I'm sort of recommending the Catacomb Command Barge or Destroyer Lord here. So yeah, that is the end of my part 2 of looking at the sort of general sort of areas of the Necron Codex. Next up, I'll be looking at sort of going into the units themselves and speak about the best parts of them. But I'm very interested to hear people's thoughts on stratagems, relics, which I sort of maybe I find underwhelming in the Necron Codex, and of course warlord traits, because I think they heavily depend on your play style. And very interested to hear what people's thoughts are on them. So thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Let us know what you think. I'm always very eager to hear what people think. And check us out on social media for our current projects and new stuff coming out. And check us out on Patreon to support the channel so we can bring you even more content. So thanks again, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.